Good afternoon, people here and online. So my name is Tuukka Petäjä, and it's actually very nice to talk after Risto. We have Arctic and Antarctic projects in completely different project phases. So the ICube project, where I was the coordinator, ICube stands for Integrative and Comprehensive Understanding on Polar Environments, is now actually ending. So in January we will finalize everything. But we have worked for 4 years integrating different aspects of the Arctic research. And so the project is part of the ERA-Planet co-funding scheme, where there was 4 other projects, one for Arctic, one for urban areas, one for integrating satellite-related things for sustainability, and then one for the Mercury. So we have worked also across these domains together, but I will now concentrate on the Arctic aspects. And the ICube project, we had 13 partners from different parts of Europe. A good community, and we made our overview of ICube and published this in ACP. So and that gives the concept and the initial results. And actually, in the similar way that Risto showed, in the Arctic, in order to understand the Arctic change, we need these different observations from detailed ground-based observations for in situ data, complemented with satellites which provide the spatial variability around these point-wise measurements. And then we need the models to harmonize and collect the current information and present this in a coordinated way and coherent manner. But also the models then can be used to predict what will happen in the future. But as Risto said, there is very important feedbacks, for example, that needs to be addressed in the Arctic particular in the future. But yeah, so this was our main concept. And the outcome, since the project is ending, I should be showing output, and this is what I'm doing. So the main output of ICube and the main objective from the beginning was to produce high quality data sets from the Arctic, and comprehensive data sets. And you can follow the link and to see the data sets, but we delivered a wide variety of data sets from persistent organic pollutants in the Arctic environment, in the Arctic waters, in the Arctic air, mercury in the Arctic, atmospheric aerosols in the Arctic, then for example data on the biological parameters from the derived from the satellites, and then we also developed tools to develop in order to develop proxy variables from already observed variables. So this is actually a very nice and complex data set available for anyone to use. And I will also summarize some of the main results that we got from the ICube project in the following set of slides. One key thing which connects climate change and air quality and has a very specific manifestation is actually urban air quality in the Arctic cities. And as part of the ICube project, together with the other ERA-Planet project called SMERBS on urban development, in ICube we push for including or studying the northern urbanization, because a lot of the Arctic is sparsely populated, but we have a lot of towns and cities surrounded by large areas which is very sparsely populated. And the urban settlements in the Arctic, they have issues related to air quality. And this is caused by the very shallow boundary layer, for example, and the poor air quality is influenced also by local emissions, but also long-range transport from lower latitudes. So this is something to be to prepare, which needs open collaboration. And as part of ICube, we contributed to the different definition of Northern Twin City concept, and this was done together with WMO and Gourmet Initiative in WMO, as well as integrated urban systems, and we had a series of workshops where we identified twin cities, and twin here does not exactly mean two, but I think it can be more than two. But the key idea is to work together with the citizens and the city officials from different Arctic cities and try to find out good practices and how these cities have tackled the air quality and how they are reacting also to the climate change. And this is, even though the ICube project is over, this work is still continuing, and we are working together with WMO on this also in the coming years. In terms of scientific outcome of ICube, one of the findings and the data sets that we produced was related to this concentration of mercury in the Arctic and understanding the processes that control the mercury concentrations in the atmosphere. And actually, very important result came from the French group that actually the river discharge and lateral transport with the rivers is very important to contribute to the mercury export to the Arctic areas, and this has not been understood well before, and actually, yeah. So this is something that is also visible in the ICube datasets. And this is why within ICube we were able to contribute to just understanding the fate, sources and fate of mercury in the Arctic, and separating the different pathways that control the mercury concentrations in the Arctic waters and the Arctic air. And you can find the reference of Petrova et al. You can find the more details there. And ICube is the Arctic project of ERA-Planet, and IGOS was the project particularly for mercury. So this is also where we integrated the results from two EU projects. The mercury concentration and the data sets on mercury is important. We had a component also in life cycle modeling of pollutants. This was done by University of Stockholm, and they modeled the concentrations of very specific persistent organic pollutants, so PCB 153. And looked at what is the concentration of this organic pollutant in breast milk. And so these are scientific results that are in a way very easy to understand, that we need to know the concentrations of these organic pollutants in the food supply of the Arctic people, and then we need to understand also what is the people's exposure to these pollutants. So the concentrations and knowing this is not enough, but we also need to understand the life cycle and the impacts then of these pollutants. Then the ICube project, the French group and others contributed to the analysis of short-lived climate forcers, mainly black carbon, but also ozone, and particularly concentrated on flaring or gas flaring. So that is a considerable source of black carbon in the Arctic areas. And it is, of course, also connected to the extraction of natural resources, we were able to, with ICube data, when we combined the emission inventories and observational data verifying these emission inventories, to actually capture the spatial distribution and how these emissions from gas flaring is influencing other Arctic regions. So when the black carbon is deposited on the snow, sea ice or snow, that influences melting, etc. So those are those feedbacks that Risto was also talking about. So these are reported in the AMAP report, which came out recently. The observations on atmospheric composition, and particularly looking at what is the relative role of anthropogenic emissions and natural aerosols, was done with filter sampling, and this is a work of PSI from Switzerland, and they did detailed high-resolution mass spectrometry analysis and identified the sources of this specific organic aerosol in the Arctic, in circumpolar Arctic. So they actually collected samples from Greenland, from Alaska, from Russian Arctic, and also from European Arctic. And the result is so that the distribution of organic aerosol is quite evenly split between the anthropogenic sources and the natural sources. Maybe a little bit more on the natural size sources, but only slightly. And the key thing also is that there is a seasonal cycle in the ratio between anthropogenic and biogenic organic aerosol. Then, together with the project GeoEssential, working on the satellite remote sensing, of course we had the satellite remote sensing component also in the ICube that allowed us to collaborate. But particularly in GeoEssential, they developed a tool to look at light sources and artificial light sources in the Arctic. So they have a tool that you can actually go to a web page into the application and select, for example, Yamal area from the map, and it will give you the data related to artificial light, which is connected to flaring and industrial processes, and actually gives you a time series how this artificial light has developed over the last 20 years or so. So you can actually very nicely look at how the emissions have changed during the recent decades. And that can, in a scientific way, that's a clear tool to understand how the emissions have changed, but it also has other uses than the science itself. And you can even zoom in to look at, for example, individual cities or settlements, how they have developed. And this is interesting maybe for the regional government or local people to see how their city has contributed in intensifying the artificial light in the Arctic. One of the remote sensing aspects of ICube was connected to glaciology, and this was done led by Angelika Humbert from Alfred Wegener Institute, and there is other papers and works, but I wanted to highlight this one. So Here they analyzed the surface characteristics of the Greenland ice sheet and identified these spots here, and actually these are bottoms of lakes on top of the Greenland ice sheet, and the process is so that you have these meltwater lakes on top of the glacier, and then at some point they drain out. You get the water out, and what you are left with is very clean white surface underneath the lake. And over time, this clean snow is accumulating dust or black carbon, and the color of the bottom is changing to darker and darker. And this was and then while the glacier is moving and the lake is forming, so you see a sequence of these lakes or former lakes, and you can look at what is the accumulation or accumulation rate of this dust or black carbon to these lakes, which actually enhance melting because of they are changing the surface properties. And as an ICube coordinator, I'm very proud of the fact that they named one of the lakes as Lake ICube. And it's a small gesture, but I think that this comes to collaboration and working together. And Angelika was very in our final workshop brought up the outcome of ICube, that we were able to bring different disciplines together, which we were not working before. Some of us, we had already connections, but we really had to integrate our work together, and we actually then progressed in science. And within 4 years, this was a very good success in my opinion. So we still have work to do, and it's good that, for example, the crisis project is now starting. So maybe we feed some of our data sets, and we are feeding some of our data sets to the crisis project. Okay, let's keep the measurements ongoing, develop methods, and be open for collaboration. So thanks for your attention, and I guess I will answer the questions on online then.
Yes, thank you very much, Tuukka.